Well, most banks are going through a digital transformation, and some banks think that digital transformation just means rolling out a mobile app to their customers, but that doesn't get it at all. I mean, it's really about transforming the heart and structure of the bank to optimize digital services for their customers. And banks in Central and Southern Europe are actually grabbing that opportunity because they can see it's a very quick way in which they can become much better in service to their customers and equally reducing costs. So I think banks here are doing a particularly good job. I'd say a digital transformation project rethinks the whole organisational structure of a bank and also their products and services and how to use people within that structure, because when you have digital relationships based on digital platforms and outreach, it's a very different organisational structure and service coming from the bank. So banks really need to have strong leadership that can re-architect the organisation for the internet era and make sure that they're really leveraging digital tools for service. What you need at the helm of a bank is a person who isn't necessarily a technologist, but that they've had good, strong understanding of digital and technology change. And equally, that they have a team that at least has a number of people on the leadership team who really do understand technology in their blood because they've had a career in some form of technological roles in their history. If you have that balance amongst the leadership team, then the digital transformation journey is far easier than trying to do it when you have no understanding of what the technological change is. Yeah, I mean, in a digital structure, I often talk about a front office of apps amongst devices, linking into a middle office of APIs in a marketplace that leverage data from the back office using artificial intelligence and strong data analytics. Whereas historically, banks' front office has been their branches with humans, their middle office has been their proprietary internally developed software and systems, and their back office is an infrastructure based on mainframe. So what I'm describing is a very different structure of front, middle, back office, using open source software and co-creating systems collaboratively with a lot of players. One of the key things that I think in the future will differentiate the strong banks from the weak banks is how good they are at partnering with other API providers. I mean, for a fintech startup, the challenge is that they have no history, no customers, and often very little money. Whereas banks have millions of customers, centuries of history, and billions of capital. So there's a strong logic for partnering between fintech startups and large banks. Large banks are slow to change, have a lot of legacy. The fintech startups have great ideas and vision and the ability to develop very quickly and actually be far more agile in what they can develop for a bank. So what you want to end up with is a collaborative structure between banks that can see their problems being plugged by companies that can solve those problems for them, such as Asseco. So I think there'll be strong partnership models between startups and banks. In the next 3 to 5 years, there's going to be some substantial changes, specifically the open source collaborative model that I'm describing of apps, APIs, analytics in the front, middle, back office. And what will really happen, and I like the phrase of data being air. So for a future financial organization to breathe, they have to have data as their air. And by data, I mean having cleansed enterprise analyzed data that really understands in real time every customer wish, every customer requirement, every customer dream. The banks that understand that the best will be the ones that can provide proactive, predictive and relevant services to me in a predictive way that makes me feel that I'm personalized and special. The banks that can do that will be very successful. Blockchain's been very well written about for the past few years. A lot of talk, very little action. And that's because it's a complicated area that banks have been trying to understand through doing proofs of concept. And very few banks have yet gone from a proof of concept to a pilot, let alone to production. What will happen is, over the next 5 to 10 years, we will see a transformation of the financial system through shared distributed ledgers. But the banks, first of all, have to understand what the structures are for the future products and services that will run on those shared ledgers and databases, and how they're going to share them with whom. And that will just take a long time to resolve. So I think blockchain is transformative, but it's going to take a good few more years before we get there.